YouTube community, what is going on? So I said I would come to you with a video on fibroids, so here we go. The statistic I was trying to remember from the last video was 1 in every 4 women, African American women, will experience troubles with fibroids. Let's just say out of my friend group, I can say that statistic is facts. Not to put my friend's business in the streets, so I will leave it there. But I will talk about my journey with fibroids. So my story starts June of 2024. Now, when I was in Houston, I was determined when I first moved there that I wanted all Black doctors. Never had a Black doctor, and I was determined to have every doctor be African American, and I knew it was possible because I live in Houston, right? So I found my dentist on Instagram. Come to find out, she was actually on the show Married to Medicine, taped out of Atlanta. I found my eye doctor, awesome woman, half Jamaican, but the experience is just so different. Like, they really do care, they really do listen, major key, and at this point I wouldn't go back. No hate towards any other race, but it was just night and day to have a Black doctor. Now, for whatever reason, it took me longer to find a primary care physician, and so I was probably there for maybe 2-3 years before I found my doctor. Now, granted, because I had a high deductible health plan, I was able to go see my old doctor when I would go to North Carolina to visit my parents. So I was still going to the doctor. I didn't go 6 years without going to the doctor. But like I said, as far as finding a primary care physician, I didn't find that until later. This one doctor I wanted to go see, her schedule was packed. Maybe she wasn't taking new patients. I don't know, but it just never worked out. So finally, I ended up using ZocDoc, where you can look up doctors in the area. And I ended up finding this doctor. And then I also didn't want to I work Monday through Friday, and I didn't want to take off to go to the doctor, right? And so this actual doctor was available on Saturdays. So perfect fit. Now, the company I worked for had great insurance. Most companies nowadays do have high deductible health plans, so it'll be like HDHP, that's what it stands for. Very rarely do people have HMOs anymore. The benefit of an HMO is you literally just have to pay a copayment when you go to the doctor. Like, oh, I'm going to see the primary care physician. It's $15. It's $20. Nowadays, they consider it preventative measures, so you should be able to go without meeting your deductible. But I have seen plans where they don't care. You got to meet your deductible, and then it's like you're paying 20% and your plan pays 80%. You might be like, Nicole, what in the world? So I have also worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield back in my day, and I also worked for them when they were basically signing people up for the Affordable Care Act / Obamacare. FYI, those were the same programs. Some people just wanted it to be under a different name because you know how they were hating on President Obama, right? So we had a high deductible health plan. And like I said, it was just a great company and we had good benefits. One of the benefits were we could actually do blood work and get a gift card, like an Amazon gift card, I want to say for like $50. So I was like, sure, I can get my blood work done for a $50 Amazon gift card. So I did that and I got my results back. The benefit of that is when I went to see the doctor, I was able to take the blood work results to the doctor's office. And she was like combing over it, so excited, so happy, like, oh my gosh, this is great. Because naturally as a doctor, she's looking and she could see, you know, what's wrong with me, what's good. And she's like telling me what certain things mean and how I can increase the numbers if it was lower and it should be higher. And I also showed her like a previous year. So let's say it was 2022 compared to 2023. So she could see, you know, what has went down, what has went up, and give me pointers. Because normally when you go to the doctor, they take your blood work and then they call you about the results. So the fact that she had those numbers, it just made a world of difference. So I don't know why doctors don't do it like that way. Like, you should go to the doctors a few days before your appointment so they can have your blood work so that you can just have a more effective doctor's appointment when you go. So that is what happened in my case. So that Saturday, I had my appointment. Again, black doctor, awesome. I think she might have even had a Biggie shirt on. And it's like, that would never be the case, right? Or she hit me with a Biggie line. One of the two. She probably hit me with a Biggie line because that might be a little bit too much wearing a Biggie shirt. But either way, it was nice. And then I got a call that Monday that my results had came back. Well, my results let it be known that my blood was so low. She said I needed to go to the emergency room ASAP because had I been in the doctor's office, they wouldn't have even allowed me to drive home. They would have had to call an ambulance to take me to the hospital. And then she's like, yeah, the side effects is death. And it's like, come again? Like, excuse me, one more time. So what's so crazy is even after hearing that, I didn't immediately go to the emergency room. Why? Because this is America. Do I want to pay to go to the emergency room, right? So I know I need blood, a blood transfusion basically. But again, I'm thinking about having to meet my deductible. I think my deductible was maybe like $3,500. And trying to find out if there was another way I could get this blood transfusion without going to the emergency room. So you can go to a hematologist. They're like the people for your blood, the doctors, I should say, for your blood, but they didn't have any available appointments. Mind you, my family reunion was coming up, so I was like flying out that Wednesday. So I didn't have a lot of time to wait around, right? And then I was like, well, what is the effects of low blood and flying and all this other stuff? So I ended up having to bite the bullet, but I didn't go to the doctor until that Tuesday. So I didn't even go that Monday. To be honest, I don't remember my numbers, but again, it was low, not like 1 or whatever, but it was low enough where I needed a blood transfusion. So I go to the ER. Of course, you're in there for hours and you just got to go. Got the bill, whatever the case may be. I never knew my blood type because you really don't know unless you have kids or something happened, like you have some type of surgery. So I'm O negative like my mother. And I got my blood work, but that let me know, well, I already knew because I was having crazy heavy periods, right? I should have said a disclaimer in case guys were watching, but I'm talking about fibroids. So, I mean, unless you're trying to learn for your wife, your sister, your mom, or whatever, it's like, hopefully women are watching. And that's what made me go to the doctor because every month it was like ridiculous. I'll spare you, but ladies, you know, like when your blood work is off and you need to go see a doctor. So it was like every month it was heavier and heavier. Hence why I probably need a blood transfusion because I'm losing mad blood every month, right? So that put the pressure on trying to get to the bottom of this. So I get my blood transfusion. I don't really want someone else's blood mixed in with my blood, but you got to do what you got to do, right? So for that reason, I wasn't trying to have to get a second blood transfusion. It was like, okay, one's enough. Let me figure out what's going on so I don't need another one. So they did set me up with a hematologist so I could go and they can monitor my blood. And they figured I had fibroids, but just the process they take you through, I ended up having to go to one doctor and they gave me like the uterus ultrasound, but then come to find out you really can't tell the size of the fibroid. So then I ended up getting an MRI. Now, of course, the MRI is going to show you everything, okay? Everything. So the MRI was what was the best. And when I tell you my joint was literally about that big, it was like the size of an orange. And then there was like a little one inside of that one. And so my options were a myectomy or, let me look it up because I got it up here, guys. UAE, which is called uterine artery embolization. So I still want kids and I will have them. So I was not trying to do a hysterectomy. But with the myomectomy, that's like where the doctor goes in and literally removes your fibroids individually. I'm looking at my computer to, have this terminology because I'm not a doctor, nurse, none of that, right? So, okay, I'm trying to give you good information. So with UAE, it's literally where the doctor goes in and they stick you in your arm and somehow they're pushing some type of something that's going to the blood so that the blood can't get to the fibroids. So the blood feeds your fibroids, and that's what causes, all this blood loss or your fibroids to grow. But with the UAE procedure, it literally, let me read this, where small particles are injected into the uterine arteries, blocking blood flow to the fibroids and causing them to shrink. So that's what happens. So you really don't know how small your fibroids shrunk, but you'll know because hopefully you have less bleeding. And after my procedure, it was like night and day, I promise you. I never really had problems with like cramps and things of that nature, but like I said, I was just bleeding ridiculously. But after that procedure, I could tell it worked. Now, if you want to get a second MRI to see the size of your fibroid after the procedure, of course, that's on you and your insurance company, but more than likely you're going to have to pay for that. And I think my MRI was like $400 or $500. The first time I went, it was only $100 because the insurance company paid. But if it's not required, I would have been on the hook for like $400 or $500. But I was like, yeah, I'm good because I already see that it's working. I'm not bleeding all over the place like I was before, right? So that process of the UAE is like you go in. It was a really good doctor that I had. He was in Katy, Texas, but he also went to other locations like Woodland Hills, and even I want to say Dallas, but I think he went to Dallas like once every 2 weeks or something. But he was a really great doctor. And like I said, he had to first make sure that blood was going to your fibroids so that when he does the procedure, it stops the blood flow. So I was a perfect candidate. So basically you have to be a candidate for UAE. And I was. And that's why he told me to do an MRI, even though I had already had the uterine ultrasound, because he needed to see exactly what size my fibroids were. Because if they're too big, UAE won't work. But I want to say they can be up to like 10 centimeters maybe. But again, talk to your doctor to find out your options. But that's the main one I went with, again, because I definitely want to have children in the future. And it was the one that I could get done quicker, because I would have had to. So I didn't even have a, what do you call it? Like your woman doctor. So that's who would have did the myomectomy. And so I was trying to get this done immediately because by the time I started doing all these, like the ultrasounds and the MRIs, it was now November, and I was trying to get all of this done because, again, when I got the blood transfusion, I met my deductible. So naturally, I'm trying to get all this done in the same year so I don't have to pay my deductible or meet it the next year. So talk about being under the gun. And I know my manager was probably like, what is going on with this girl? Because I had to. It's like, oh, they got me in. I didn't know about this appointment. They squeezed me in last minute. Can I go to the doctor tomorrow? I'll be off work, yada, yada. So I definitely shout out to my manager for working with me. He, like I said, he didn't know what was going on because you don't got to tell your manager, it's all your business, right? But he just knew I was going to the doctor and something was up. And the procedure, they put you under. And then I remember waking up on my own, but it was literally maybe like 1 to 2 hours, if that, and then someone has to drive you home. So I actually Ubered there because it was literally in Katy, the same town I lived in. So I just caught an Uber there so the person didn't have to wait the whole time or take me, go back to work and pick me up. And then my roommate actually picked me up. Remember how I said I was staying with a woman from the choir I was in? So at that point we were roommates, so she picked me up, and I had like just moved in too. And I want to say your healing process is like 7 days. I think I was out of work for 7 days. because you're really just hyped up on medication. So I left the office with like a fentanyl patch. So I was feeling good, feeling no pain, no gain, okay? And then you're literally taking other medications around the clock, like every 2 hours, every 4 hours, different ones you're taking. You might take one during the day, one at night, but then there's like 2 or 3 other medications that you're taking. So set your alarms and do that, because I really was just sleeping and watching stuff on Netflix, whatever the case may be. So I can say I didn't really have any crazy pain. So everyone was like, how you feeling? Again, I was feeling fine because me and that fentanyl patch was doing okay. All right. And that was good for 3 days. And then any pain you did have, they did give you other medication. But I want to say I had about $90 worth of prescriptions that was required for me to order so that I could pick up after the procedure. So yeah, that equated to about 5 or 6 different medications. Those are around here somewhere. I, like I said, wanted to do this video. For me, like I said, it really did work. Now, I had told one of my friends about this, and then when she asked her doctor, he gave her wrong information. So if you ask your doctor about it, they could be either lying because they want to charge you something different, or just being lazy. And I say they might be lying because maybe it's not a procedure they're well versed in, so they don't want somebody else to do the procedure on you because they want the money. Like, you just never know the ulterior motives of doctors, right? And no shade to doctors, but like I said, I know for a fact it works. And for my friend to ask her doctor about it and then he tell her something totally different, it's like, yeah, he's lying to you, girl. So that is why people get second opinions. But that was my journey. Like I said, it did work. I would definitely do it again. So the procedure is UAE, where they inject small particles into your uterine arteries, blocking blood flow to the fibroids and causing them to shrink. But as we know, fibroids can grow. So I'm now looking into things like, I see stuff on Instagram where it's like you could eat certain foods that are better at healing fibroids. And so I'm open to that because I'm starting to feel like they're getting heavier again. Nothing like what it used to be, but I definitely am seeing a difference. But prior to this, I was already anemic. And so I'm the type of person, I don't really like to take medicine daily. Like, I don't even take vitamins. So to take iron pills every day, it's like, yeah, I just wasn't feeling that. But, you got to do what you got to do. And when you are getting older, you might need to look into that. But that was something I didn't do. Like, I still have a prescription of iron pills that I just don't take consistently. Again, I just don't take medicine consistently. That's just my thing. That's how I grew up. Like, I didn't grow up in one of those families where we took Tylenol, whatever the case, anytime we had any type of pain. It was like, nah, we only want to be taking all that kind of stuff. Only thing I took was my Flintstone vitamins. Remember Flintstone vitamins back in the day? So yeah, that was at most what I took. So yeah, that is my story with fibroids. I definitely cut it down because, like I said, it felt like I was going to a lot of appointments. But yeah, it was a good process. I got it done in 2024. And as far as how much it cost, of course, the prices went up, I'm sure, because this is now a year or two later at this point, because I said 2024, but it was 2023. It was the end of 2023, December, going into 2024. So yeah, this is like 2 years later. So I'm sure the prices went up. I remember I had to do a down payment of $800. And then from there, I was paying, they let you do like 12 months, no interest financing. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say I was paying like $180. And that was literally for 12 months. And so 180 times 12, 2,160. And like I said, I already had paid $800 for them to do the procedure. So yeah, but I'm sure every doctor's office has their different requirements of maybe you have to pay 10% down, 20% down, whatever the case may be. But like I said, this was end of 2023, guys, so I don't remember what the percentage requirement was that I had to put down. But like I said, I definitely remember it being $800, and I remember paying anywhere from like $172 to $180 a month for a whole year, and then my procedure was paid off. So that is my story on fibroids, and if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. Peace. You know I love this piece, right? All right.